Jerónimo, welcome to MOLAA. Bienvenido a MOLAA.
Muchas gracias.
What a pleasure to have you here and presenting your fantastic work in this special collaboration with CIFO through Tierra Cifrada, a group exhibition that you are part, and we are so happy to have you here. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for the invitation and for making space for such a meaningful and important iteration of a project that has many different outputs. So I'm really grateful for that.
Well, tell us about your beginnings as an artist and also about the different layers of questions and thought that we can discover in your body of work in general.
Yeah. So my background is not in art. However, I've always had a close relationship with aesthetic practices. And in 2018, I took the decision to fully focus on my practice as a researcher and as an artist. That's when I relocated to Texas in order to pursue a master's, graduate degree, a master's in fine arts, specialized in sculpture and extended media. And I chose to do it in Texas for multiple reasons. The most important one because I was set to develop a line of investigation examining the binational dynamics within the Twin Cities spread across the Tamaulipas and Texas border. Tamaulipas is a northern state in Mexico. And through that research project is that I had my first encounter with Playa Bagdad. No? So on one trip in which I was moving back and forth Matamoros and Bronzeville, that's when I found Playa Bagdad and when I found its connection to the SpaceX spaceport, which is located 2 miles north of the Rio Bravo River. So I would say that that episode of my life was central for the consolidation of the practice that I have today. Also because when I found Playa Bagdad, I started thinking about the cultural, environmental, and political impact caused by the sound produced during liftoffs. And that's because sound has always played an important part of my professional practice as well. So for many years I was involved in the electronic music scene of Mexico. And it was interesting how at some point when I made this shift in my practice, I still was working with sound, but not as signal, more as a category for political and environmental analysis.
That is really, really important, Jerónimo. And as you said, as a interdisciplinary artist, researcher, and community organizer from Mexico, but now living and working in US, you are creating and visualize the idea of border as a symbol, but also as a real political approach in your work. And I really love if you can introduce us in your particular project, Voice in Resonance, that we will present here at MOLAA with CIFO, because you spent more than 5 years doing the research and also creating a strong dialogue with the communities, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Voice in Resonance, it's a project or an investigation in which I've been working for the past years. It began when I relocated to Texas back in 2018, but it was actually until 2020 when I first started working with this line of investigation. So back in 2018, I relocated to Texas in order to pursue a graduate degree in, a master in fine arts, specialized in sculpture and extended media. And I relocated to Texas because I was interested in examining the binational relationship between what's called the Twin Cities, spread along the Tamaulipas, which is a northern Mexican state, and Texas. So when carrying out this research project, that was the first time that I encountered Playa Bagdad, early in my first encounter, I started thinking about its connection with the SpaceX launch port located in Boca Chica, Texas. No, so SpaceX has been developing what promises to be their main launch site in Boca Chica, Texas. This is 2 miles north, the delta of the Rio Bravo or Rio Grande River. And just down below on the same coast of the Mexican Gulf, very close to the Rio Grande River banks or Rio Bravo banks, there's Playa Bagdad, and this is a marginalized fishing community that's now receiving all the transboundary, all the impact caused by the sonic shock waves produced when SpaceX rocket launch happened. So that's the premise of this investigation that I've been working on for the past 5 years. No? So this investigation is centered on examining the environmental, cultural, and political impact caused by the sonic shock waves produced by SpaceX rockets when lifting off. It is very important to highlight that in all the environmental assessments and all the jurisdictional frameworks that allow for SpaceX to operate in the region, they deliberately erased the existence of this community. No? So this is something that I refer to as the colonial practices of erasure that often facilitate the development of industrialization projects or projects of infrastructural development that are justified by pursuing this very contentious notion of progress.
What is the reaction when you are doing your research in the territory, right? And your relationship with the community in Baghdad?
Yeah, I mean that's a very important question because as I was saying when we began this conversation, this is a project that takes many different forms. This is a project that operates within exhibition spaces such as like this. It's a project that I constantly write about, and these texts and articles are being published in different platforms. And this is a project that also operates within the territory and within the community of Playa Bagdad. And the iterations that happen within the community, the iterations that are situated, are the heart of this project. And when I say that they're the heart, I don't mean it in as a cliche, but I mean it in a quite like metaphorical and practical way, because that's actually what keeps the project moving. You know, that's what pumps blood into this project. When I say blood, I mean understand blood as an element that creates life. You know, and that's what keeps this project moving. So for the past 3 years, I've been doing with my collaborator, Ana Serino. She's a local educator. We together have been doing this public art program in the community. In this public art program, we use an inflatable planetarium. So this is like an inflatable dome, which is an artifact that's commonly used to showcase the power of science and technology. However, in our program, we give a different meaning to this artifact, and we use it as an open space to carry out conversations revolving around the desires but also the anxieties of coexisting with SpaceX. So that iteration of the project was well received, and earlier this year we got the support of the Jumex Foundation based in Mexico City, and that allowed us to take the public art program to its second stage. So we convinced a resident from Playa Bagdad that we work with on a different iteration of the project. We convinced her that we talked to her about what we had in mind for the second stage of the public art program, and she and her family generously donated a piece of land. And in that piece of land, we used the funds provided by the Jumex Foundation to actually build a schoolhouse. So this is a much more permanent iteration of the project. So this is an iteration that will take years to develop fully. But right now, it's operating this space as an open forum again to carry out different activities. So my collaborator, she right now she teaches English and people how to use computers, and helps them with their unfinished studies. And on my side, I've been conducting workshops on how to use cameras and sound recorders as means to counter-registering their reality, which is a reality that's changing fastly due to the presence of SpaceX in the region. So, and all this is connected to Boarding Resonance, which is this film installation, because Boarding Resonance, what it does is that it shows the cultural practices of 3 residents that work collecting oysters at the banks of the Rio Grande River. So in Boarding Resonance, I follow these 3 collaborators, and I register one SpaceX launch with each one of them. So that really shows the alarming proximity of SpaceX to Playa Bagdad and their work sites. And yeah, it's a film installation in which you can it's intended for audience to access the underlayers and the hidden aspects that make this geopolitical scenario a unique place for rethinking the political anatomy of power.
Yeah, I am really curious about the reaction of different audiences, because you have the opportunity to present your work around the world, right? And last month you present this fantastic research in Liste, and what was the conversation? Because maybe in US we can open different layers of conversation and approach, but what was in Europe, for example, when you present the same piece of artwork, and what is the conversation around that you receive from visitors? Or
yeah, probably thing is that I at this point I do not have, the conversation, people, I get the feeling that people were interested, and it felt as if it was something very new for them, in terms of grasping the complexity of the Mexico-US border dynamics. And that's totally understandable.
Exactly, because I am thinking, for example, for some levels that we can talk about the technutopia, and the complexity behind that concept that maybe for us could be more easy to understand immediately, and maybe for others that they are not involved in the reality of the border.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way in which, through my view, they approach what's been framed or labeled as media art, because I would say that the tendency in other latitudes other than Latin America and the Caribbean, because those are the ones that I know and that I feel related to. I would say that their approach to technology and art is much more nihilistic, you know, in terms of not just pointing out to the problem, but not to potential solutions. And that's something that's very important for me with this whole research, you know. So it's this project is not about pointing the finger to SpaceX, you know, because it would be naive on my side, naive for like even the people that I work with. They're very aware that there's no way to stop reality, the trajectory of reality at this point. There's a lot of political, economic interest rooted to SpaceX launch port. So what we are trying to do is to actually raise awareness and provide the community tools that can actually come useful and beneficial when having to negotiate a future. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's about coexistence, you know. So what I'm trying to do with this project is to open a conversation about like coexisting in a symmetrical way, because right now reality in the Playa Bagdad region is like absurdly asymmetrical, you know. So on one hand you're confronting one of the most marginalized settlements on the Mexico borderlands, and turns out that every morning they wake up, look out, and in their horizon there are like rockets that are meant to colonize Mars. You know, and that sounds as a story taken out from like science fiction, but that's reality for them.
Thank you, Jerónimo. We are so happy to have you here, and also to continue talking about that around your work and your presentation here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.